The clinking of glasses echoed around the marble hall, soft jazz humming under chandeliers that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. I sat beside Ryan, my husband, wearing the black dress he'd picked out. He said it made me blend in better. I thought it was a compliment. Now I know it wasn't. He raised his champagne, leaned back in his chair, and said loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, "Marriage? Oh please, mine's more of a charity project." Laughter. From his colleagues, their wives, his boss. The kind that burns straight through your spine. I forced a smile, gripping the edge of my napkin until my nails nearly tore through the fabric. That was the moment I realized something inside me had snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I just sat there, still, quiet, and watched him soak up their laughter like applause. The air smelled like truffle pasta and humiliation. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. He kept going. "She quit her job to support me," he said, air quoting with his fingers. "Now she spends her days playing businesswoman on a laptop." That one landed harder. Because it was true, I had quit my job. I believed in his dream, helped him pitch investors, stayed up reworking his proposals when he fell asleep. I built him decks, organized meetings, handled the clients who thought he was too intense. And now I was his punchline. I felt the room blur. My wine glass trembled as I put it down. The waiter's hand brushed mine, maybe by accident, maybe not, but it grounded me for a second. That's when I made a decision I didn't even understand yet. When the laughter died down, I leaned in close and whispered, "Enjoy the joke while you can." He smirked, thinking I was embarrassed. He didn't know that quiet rage can be louder than any scream. After dinner, as he soaked in compliments and posed for a photo, I slipped my wedding ring off. My hand felt lighter. My heart didn't. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked out into the cold night air, heels clicking on the stone steps, every sound echoing like a countdown. That night, I slept in my car. But for the first time in months, I slept without waiting for him to come home. And that's when I realized I didn't just walk out of a restaurant. I walked out of his world. I drove until the city lights disappeared in the rearview mirror. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from everything I had swallowed for years, every insult disguised as jokes, every apology followed by "you're too sensitive." The dashboard clock glowed 1:47 a.m. I parked outside a closed gas station and sat there staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My mascara had bled into thin black rivers. I looked like someone else, someone I didn't recognize yet. That night wasn't the first time Ryan embarrassed me, but it was the first time I let myself see it for what it really was: abuse hidden under luxury. He loved to remind me that everything we had, the house, the car, the dinners, was his. But it wasn't. I had built most of it beside him. I'd written the business proposals, emailed investors, proofread contracts. I'd done it all for us, believing in a future we'd share. Except there was no us. There was Ryan, and the version of me that made him look good. When I finally got home the next morning, he was asleep. His phone buzzed beside him. And for once, I didn't look away. A message preview glowed on the screen. "You were hilarious last night. She really has no clue." That's when my stomach dropped. It wasn't just humiliation, it was betrayal. I didn't open the phone. I didn't need to. Everything made sense. The late meetings. The secret of smiles. The new aftershave. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the man I used to love. His face looked peaceful in sleep, almost innocent. And that made me angrier. He thought I'd never leave. He thought I'd stay quiet. He thought I'd forgive him like every other time. But not this time. I went to the guest room, pulled out my old laptop, the same one he mocked at dinner, and powered it on. The screen flickered to life, a faint hum filling the silence. I opened my email drafts, the business idea I once wrote but never showed him because he said it was too risky. It wasn't just an idea. It was mine. That night, I decided to finish what I'd started before he ever came into my life. While he slept, I wrote a plan. I didn't know how yet, but I knew why. And sometimes that's all you need to begin. That was the night I stopped being his shadow. The next morning, Ryan woke up hungover and smug. He didn't even remember what he'd said the night before. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He came into the kitchen shirtless, kissed the air near my cheek, and said, "You were quiet last night. Couldn't handle a joke." I looked at him, not like his wife, but like someone studying a stranger. "No, Ryan," I said quietly. "I'm done handling you." He laughed, assuming I was bluffing. Then he grabbed his coffee, checked his phone, and muttered, "Don't be dramatic." But something changed in me. His words didn't sting anymore. They just confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't my problem anymore. That day, I packed a small suitcase, transferred what little money I had from our joint account, my money really, I'd earned it through freelance marketing gigs, and left before he came home. No note. No tears. I moved into a small, furnished studio on the other side of the city. It smelled like paint and cheap air freshener. But it was mine. For days, I did nothing but sit at the window, staring at the skyline and wondering how I had let myself disappear into someone else's life. Then I opened my laptop. The business plan I had written years ago glowed on the screen. Solarize Consulting. Digital branding for women entrepreneurs. The idea had come to me back when I worked at an agency. I'd noticed how small female-owned businesses were constantly undervalued, how marketing firms overcharged or ignored them. I wanted to help them grow. Ryan said it was cute. He said it would never make real money. So I buried it. Until now. I started from zero. No investors, no partners, no fancy office. Just me, my laptop, and a cheap desk from Facebook Marketplace. I spent nights building a website, designing logos, and pitching clients online. I used every marketing trick I had learned while working under Ryan's company. At first, it was slow. 2 clients. Then 5. Then one of them recommended me to another. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, not even mutual friends. Silence was my armor. Every invoice I sent felt like reclaiming a piece of myself he had tried to destroy. Meanwhile, his company, the one I'd helped him build, started getting bad press. Rumors of mismanagement, missed deadlines, internal drama. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just kept working. Because the best revenge wasn't proving him wrong. It was proving myself right. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. By the end of the first year, I was making more money than I ever had with him. But every time I signed a new client or received praise, a strange emptiness followed. Because no matter how far I ran, his voice was still there, in my head. You won't last without me. You're too emotional to lead. You need someone to make your ideas real. I didn't need him, but I still wanted him to see me win. So when a mutual acquaintance, one of his former clients, reached out, I knew fate had handed me something sharp. They were leaving Ryan's firm. They wanted a team that actually delivered. I told them I'd take the job, on one condition. My company's name stayed anonymous until the deal was finalized. They agreed. Weeks later, I found myself sitting across from Ryan in a glass conference room. He looked shocked. "Sarah," he said, half laughing, half confused. "You're what consulting now?" I met his eyes, calm and deliberate. "Running my own agency," I said. "You've heard of Solarize?" He froze. He had. His company had been losing clients to mine for months. I just never told him it was me. I leaned back, pretending to be unaffected, but inside my pulse raced. The years of humiliation, the dinner, the messages, the manipulation, it all condensed into that one quiet moment of power. He tried to play it cool. "Guess you finally found something that works," he said, smirking. "Guess I finally stopped listening to you," I replied. He shifted in his seat. That was the first time I'd seen him nervous. After the meeting, I walked out of that building like I was shedding the last layer of my old self. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Ryan, impressive work. We should talk sometime." I deleted it. He wanted to pull me back into the orbit he once controlled. But I wasn't the same woman he mocked at that dinner table. Now I was competition. And that's the cruelest thing for a man like him. Watching the woman he belittled become the one he can't beat. But I wasn't done yet. Because part of me still needed closure. Not revenge, clarity. And to get that, I'd have to face him one last time. It happened 2 months later. He showed up at one of my events, uninvited. It was a women's business networking gala I'd organized under Solarize. The ballroom was full of women who'd built something out of nothing, just like me. Cameras flashed, laughter filled the air, and I was finally proud. Not pretending proud, truly proud. Then I saw him. Ryan, standing near the bar, hands in his pockets, pretending to be casual. He looked older, sharper, but smaller somehow. I froze for half a second, then forced myself to breathe. He approached with that same arrogant half-smile. "Nice place," he said. "You've done well for yourself." "Thanks," I replied evenly. "All without the charity work, too." He flinched. He remembered the dinner. Of course he did. He glanced around, lowering his voice. "Look, Sarah, we were stupid back then. Both of us. Maybe we could." "Don't finish that sentence," I cut in. You don't get to rewrite what you did just because I turned out fine. For a moment, the music drowned out everything else. We stood there, two people who once shared a home, now strangers bound only by history and unfinished hurt. He exhaled slowly. You've changed, he said. No, I said quietly. I just stopped shrinking. He gave a bitter laugh. You think you're better than me now? I met his eyes and smiled, a real calm smile. No, Ryan. I think I finally know who I am without you. Someone called my name from across the room. One of my clients, asking for a photo. I turned to go, but before I left, I said, by the way, that charity project? She's profitable now. And I walked away. The next day, I found out something. His company had officially filed for bankruptcy. The same week, I closed a partnership with one of his former investors. I didn't plan it that way, but maybe the universe did. I didn't celebrate. I just sat on my office balcony that night, watching the city lights blur below. For the first time, I felt peace, not triumph, not revenge, just release. Still, I knew something was missing, because it wasn't just about beating him anymore. It was about rebuilding the version of me that he broke down piece by piece. And that version of me still had one more mountain to climb. 2 years after I walked out of that dinner, Solarize had become something real, not just a side hustle, not just survival. It was a brand. We had 20 employees, 3 full-time designers, and clients in 5 countries. I'd built an office downtown, glass walls, plants, minimalist furniture. Everything Ryan once said was too ambitious for your kind of business. Funny how the things men call too ambitious usually just mean too independent. Some days, I'd walk past the boardroom glass and catch my reflection, a version of me I barely recognized. Stronger, sharper, more focused, but also quieter in a way that comes from surviving something ugly. And then one morning, my assistant walked in and said, "You've been invited to speak at the Women in Leadership Summit." I laughed. As in me? The woman who once slept in her car. Yes, she said, smiling. Exactly you. The event was huge. CEOs, investors, media. All the people who never gave me a seat at the table before. I spent days preparing, going over my speech, trying to decide how much of my past I should reveal. When I walked on stage, the lights hit me hard. My hands trembled a little, but I spoke anyway. I was once the woman laughed at for having dreams too small to matter, I began. And now, those same dreams pay salaries for 20 families. Don't ever let anyone convince you that your worth is measured by who stands beside you. Sometimes, walking away is the start of everything. The crowd stood up before I even finished. I smiled, but inside something shifted. That night, my phone buzzed again. Ryan, saw your speech. I guess you proved your point. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back. It was never about proving a point, Ryan. It was about reclaiming my life. And then I blocked him. I thought that would be the end. But 2 weeks later, I saw a news article online. Former tech CEO faces investigation for investor fraud. It was him. I didn't smile. I didn't feel vindicated. Just sad. Because once I had loved him. But I also knew some endings write themselves. He built his success on lies and pride. I built mine on loss and truth. And in the end, truth lasts longer. That night, I closed my laptop, poured myself a glass of wine, and whispered to the quiet room. You were wrong about me, Ryan. Because the truth was, I hadn't just built a business. I'd built an empire out of everything he tried to destroy. I thought I'd buried that chapter for good. But ghosts have a way of showing up when you least expect them. It was a rainy Thursday when my receptionist buzzed me. There's someone here asking for you, she said softly. He doesn't have an appointment. I already knew. Before she even said his name, I knew. Ryan. I told her to send him in. Not because I wanted to see him, but because I wasn't afraid anymore. He walked in wearing the same confidence he used to wear like armor, but now it looked cracked. His suit was expensive, but his eyes gave him away, tired, restless, desperate. Sarah, he said, his voice quieter than I remembered. I needed to see you. I gestured toward the chair across from me. You've got 5 minutes. He sat down, exhaled, and ran a hand through his hair. Everything fell apart, he said. The company, the investors, my reputation. I lost everything. I stayed silent. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, he added. For everything I did. I was stupid. I didn't know what I had. The apology hung between us. Too late, too practiced, too easy. I looked at him for a long time before saying, You didn't lose everything, Ryan. You gave it away, piece by piece. Every time you thought you were better than the people who loved you. He swallowed hard. You're right. He looked around my office, eyes landing on the awards on the wall, the framed photos of my team, the view from the window. You really did it, he said softly. You built something incredible. I did, I said, without breaking anyone in the process. He nodded slowly, almost like he respected me, but I could see the envy underneath. It wasn't admiration. It was regret twisted into jealousy. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. Do you ever miss me? I took a deep breath, smiled faintly, and said, Sometimes I miss who I thought you were. But that man never existed. He didn't say anything after that. Just sat there, eyes wet, pretending to be strong. When he finally stood to leave, he said, You're colder now. I shook my head. No, Ryan. I'm finally warm, because I stopped standing in your shadow. He walked out quietly, and as the door closed behind him, I realized I didn't feel anger. Or triumph. Just peace. Because closure isn't about hearing I'm sorry. It's about no longer needing it. That day, I deleted the last trace of him from my life. Old photos, old files, old memories. And for the first time, it didn't feel like running away. It felt like freedom.
A year later, Solarize crossed its first million in revenue. We celebrated quietly. No champagne towers, no luxury dinners, just my team, takeout boxes, and laughter echoing through the office that once held my fear. I looked around at the women I'd hired, single moms, survivors, dreamers. All the versions of myself I'd once been. And it hit me. This was my real family. The one I chose. After everyone left, I stood alone by the window, watching the city lights shimmer against the glass. Somewhere out there, Ryan probably still told his stories, blaming the market, the investors, the economy. But deep down, I knew the truth. He didn't just lose a wife. He lost the woman who built the best parts of his life. And I didn't just win success. I won freedom. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's silence. Silence when you see their name and feel nothing. Silence when your heart doesn't race or ache. Silence when you realize they no longer define you. I used to think strength meant fighting back. But real strength is walking away and never looking over your shoulder. That night, I drove past the same restaurant where it all began. Where he mocked me, where I felt small. It was still there, still filled with the same kind of people laughing too loud about things that didn't matter. I parked for a moment, smiled, and whispered to myself, You did it. And then I drove away, not running, not escaping, but moving forward. Because I wasn't the woman who needed his validation anymore. I was the woman who built her own empire, her own peace, her own name. I lost him, but I found myself. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Let me know below. And don't forget to follow for more real stories like this.